Welcome. Good morning. I am Wendie Bihari. Welcome to Schema Therapy Basics and Beyond. I'll tell you a little bit about myself and then let's get started. There's a lot of material to cover and I'm very excited to be with all of you. I am a founding member and a former president of the International Society of Schema Therapy. I'm also the director of the Cognitive Therapy Center and Schema Therapy Institutes of New Jersey, New York City, and Washington, D.C. And I have been teaching this model that I am very excited to share with you today for more than 20 years now. We are going to be talking about some of the most challenging cases that we encounter in the treatment room and how to use this very rich and robust treatment approach to deal with them. So, without further ado, let's get started. In Module 1, we will be talking about schema theory. So we'll be looking at the fact that this is an evidence-based model, and we do have several outcome studies. Research has been conducted throughout the globe, really all around the world. Many of my colleagues in the International Society have been doing research for the past 10 plus years. And our results are quite good, quite impressive when working with, again, some of the most difficult personality disorders and other types of chronic symptomologic disorders. We're going to talk about schema clusters. We'll define schemas, early maladaptive schemas, and look at the developmental domains and attachment ruptures that occur, which can create the formation, the origination of schemas. We're going to go through the 18 early maladaptive schemas very closely and look at distinctions and differentiation between them as they occur in personality. So let's get started. Let's talk about a definition of schema therapy for starters. This is a model that was founded, back in the late 80s, early 90s. We started talking about this with Dr. Jeffrey Young, who is the founder. Dr. Young was working alongside Dr. Aaron Beck at the University of Pennsylvania at the Center for Cognitive Therapy. And Jeff Young was one of the lead researchers with Dr. Beck on the depression studies. And what he was finding, for those of you who do have an orientation in cognitive behavioral therapy, what he was finding was that even though many of the clients were able to see, using very well-grounded cognitive strategies, they were able to see that they could come up with rational wisdom. They could come up with evidence to support the fact that they were carrying distortions within their makeup. They were believing things about themselves and carrying automatic thoughts that would claim to have them feel stupid or unattractive, not sufficient, not belonging to anything. And they were able to see that these were generalizations. These were really biased ways of looking at themselves in the world and predicting their future. They were able to do that, but for many of them, they would still report that despite the fact that I know that I have some friends and I know that I'm not completely worthless and I do have value, I still feel it. I still feel as if I'm flawed and defective and not lovable. I still feel as if there will never be anyone who can emotionally meet my needs. And this is where Jeff started looking at this idea of deeper cognitive material that also carried the power of emotion, bodily sensation. So the affective part became more prominent in his mind and in his looking at this issue, and began to think about the possibility beyond automatic thoughts of early maladaptive schemas, meaning those that develop earlier in our lives and really can be very powerfully anchored at the core of our defined self, if you will, like a hardwired trait. So schema therapy defined as basically, it is an integrative model because it started once upon a time. It kind of evolved out of cognitive behavioral therapy, and it takes into account the use of emotion-focused practice, attachment theory, psychodynamic ideas, object relation ideas, Gestalt thinking. So we integrate, not eclectically, it's not haphazard, it's really very thoughtful, deliberate, choosing and selecting of models that really support a very profoundly rich framework for understanding how early experience, early attachment ruptures, early unmet needs begin to define, along with our temperament and biology, begin to define who we are and how we become and how we relate to the world. So this is an integrative, unifying theory and treatment. It's designed to treat a variety of long-standing emotional difficulties in individuals and in couples. We also have an approach in schema therapy designed to work with groups and one to work with children and adolescents now as well. So our certification programs have expanded from individuals to working with couples to working with groups to working with children and adolescents, with some interesting studies behind each.